So I am going... voiceover notes. I'm going to try to do a voiceover for, I don't know, 5 days in a row. I can't promise anything though. Starting today though. Don't yell at me if I miss out though. Please. Anyway, for today, anatomy. Didn't use a reference though. All from my head. I probably took just as long thinking about what to draw today as drawing. And this was the result. Big surprise there. Real intuitive stuff. I'm fumbling. I'm fumbling the bag. This is terrible. Real great start to promising 5 days of voiceover. Good one, me. I mean, I don't know. If I knew all the muscle names, I would be saying them like, this is what I did here, what I did here, what I did here, whatever. But I don't. I was just going with it. I'm flustered, okay? I should have thought about what I'd be saying before I promised this. I mean, it's really just all of my knowledge I've accumulated within however long I've actually been trying to do anatomy, so maybe a year or two, and combining it without a reference, which is what I've been kind of doing for a long time now. But I feel like this is better than all the other times I did it. I can't prove that because I don't remember every single time I used a reference or not, but I like this one more than all the other ones. I also did some old stuff I did on Bio Night, which I was going to look at the day that was, but I don't remember. But with the hands fusing into the... I called them shields. Well, I called them blocks in the art, but I called them shields in the little sketch for community post. I did that with Bio Night, whenever it was. With the Bio Night shield, I fused the hand into it, which I remember looking really good. And if I remember right, I liked that one more than this one. But, you know, I didn't actually look at Bio Night again. So for all I know, this is way better, and the one in Bio Night is just completely terrible, and I just completely forgot. That's possible. There is some iconography in here that relates to something that I've been working on. Foreshadowing. I won't get too in detail about it, but that's why there is a halo. And also why there's like a symbol on the chest, which is like a straight line down with 2 horizontal lines. It does kind of look just like the muscles, but trust me, there is a symbol there. It's also in the head, in like the stitching. I tried to make it look like the same symbol. But yeah, that one is definitely less visible. I also went with the blue and the red just for, you know, complementary color scheme. We love complementary color schemes here. And I put them into a dark area, room, whatever, just because I find putting them in anything in dark rooms like this makes for much more interesting lighting. I mean, sure, putting something on in a bright room with some shadows being cast from something is also super interesting, but you know, then I have to come up with something casting shadows, which I do. Haha, I said to do. With the halo, I give the halo a shadow. I thought about it. It's not incorporeal. It is there. But you'll just have to wait until I start adding like actual light and shadow for that to, you know, come to fruition. But until then, just trust me for real, please. Trust. As you can see with the blocks / shields, I tried to make it look like a weird fleshy chunk, I guess. You can be the judge on if I succeeded or not. I think it gets the job done enough. And I obviously used the same color with that as I did with the mouth which is, you know, another just showing that it is flesh rather than some weird, well, I guess it could still be some weird red skin, but more fleshy colored. I feel like what I just said was insane, but, you know, I'm running with it. This is what happens when you don't write scripts, because I'm no scriptwriter. I'm just a rambler. Straight up yapping. The yapster. And, like, I really don't know what to talk about. It's the same thing I do, like, every single time with the rendering. Do the outline with a... It's not a smooth brush. It's like a textured rock brush, technically. Fill it in, and then use, like, a more painterly brush to render everything. Sometimes there's slight alterations to that, but this time there's not. It is just that same formula. I mean, it only really works if you can visualize things in 3D, at least. It's easier if you can do that. I don't actually know if it's required, because I've never tried to do it without that, since I can't make my brain work that way. But, I mean, I'm not sure if I really have any tips or tricks. This is just a whole lot of tiny things built up over 1,721 days. Sure, you could cut out probably 1,000 of those days, like the first 1,000. Maybe not that many. You could cut out a lot though, on learning stuff. Topics. Adding in lighting and shadow. In this, for the shadow, I end up using a multiply layer, as I typically do, but I use a really faded purple, which is typical, but then I add in a red color, just because the background is a brown. It's like a gross red brown. So I decided that the shadow should have that color, because it is, like, that color does reflect into the shadow, which is why on, like, a sunny day, shadows have blue in them, just because the sky is blue. And you could also, like, put green in the shadows in your grass and stuff. It's complicated. You don't need to do that, but you can. Here I'm just trying to add more light and texture to this flesh shield. Just because the two colors I thought looked flat. Flat, boring, sad. So I added more stuff. Including pencil texture, which, you know, probably not typical of flesh. But, you know, who cares about realism? This is a drawing. I am finally adding the multiply shadow layer. And typically I would actually just put in the shadows, like directly paint them in. But this time I filled the whole layer of multiply, and I erased where I wanted the light. Which, you know, it ends with the same product. It's just a different way of doing it. And kind of easier with how much shadow I added in. It depends on how you feel about it, I guess. Now I'm doing an overlay layer for light. Sometimes I do screen, sometimes I do color dodge. But this time I did overlay. And I have been doing overlay a lot recently for the light. I don't know, I just like it. I think it's neat. And there's the shadow for the halo. And I give it more light around the edges of the shadow, because Terminator. It's just what light does sometimes, I guess. Don't ask questions. I'm not a physicist or someone else, an optic scientist. I don't know that stuff, the science. Well, I know a little bit, but, like, not enough to tell you why it's like that. And then once again, I'm adding more just random details, and then I added some watercolor texture. It's like, whatever. And fog. I love fog. Anyway, thanks for listening to my yapping. Bye. Have a good day. Bye bye. Thanks for sticking around. Bye. Bye bye. And also, lighten the fog.